Welcome to day one of our 5-day networking challenge. I am your host, Anita Miller, and I am so excited to be here. So, listen, before we get started, let me set expectations. The whole goal of this challenge is that you can get done what you need to set the foundations for creating a network that will get you promoted, get you more money, or whatever your goal is this week and really in an hour or less. So, your lunch break, right? So that's what we're going to do. Today is probably going to be the longest of any of the days. But outside of that, I am only going to give you the steps or talk to you for 30 minutes or less. So this is not an hour webinar or any of the things that you've seen before. And you're going to take action immediately after listening to this and immediately after watching this or however you're seeing this, whether it's live or whether it's a version of the replay. Okay. So, with that being said, if you have questions for me, if you want the worksheets, the documents, if you want to be a part of the bonus conversations, those will all take place inside of our pop-up community. So if you want to join the pop-up community, the link to do that is in, we'll call it the show notes, right? So whether you are watching this right now via Zoom, it'll be in the chat for you. You're welcome. If you're watching a replay, it'll be in the emails, in the podcast show notes, in the YouTube notes, wherever you are watching this. So make sure that you go and you click on that link so that you can get your questions answered, so that you can also get feedback on the deliverables for this week, especially when we get to the middle of the week and we start to execute upon creating that foundation. This way, you don't have to do it alone. This way, you can get reassurance that what you're going to say and how you're going to say it is good, and it's good for you and the person that you are trying to reach out to. Okay, so today is day one, and we are going to talk all about why networking is important. A lot of people say, hey, you got a network. Your net worth is your network is your net worth, and all of those things. But what does that really mean? Why do we have to network? And here's the thing, we have to network because our society is driven on relationships. Not only is our society driven on relationships, but the way that the systems have been put in place, it is driven for relationships. So relationships or lack thereof are either helping you or hurting you. And we're going to talk a little bit about the beliefs that we have, especially as Black women or women of color, and how those are getting in our way and how those beliefs that we hold are somewhat intentional based on how the system works and how do you get the things that you want out of the system we currently live in and work in, etc. All right, so give me a second. I'm going to share my screen for you so that we can get started with today's presentation, because again, 30 minutes or less is all the time I'm going to take up. All right, so today, day one, create the network to get promoted challenge. Here we go. All right, so first up about me, if this is your first time meeting me, I am Anita. I am a career confidence and leadership coach. I'm a thought leader and I'm a visionary. I am the founder of Confident Women Lead. And I also am someone who has a variety of a background. So I have probably worked in about 5 different industries, everything from manufacturing to banking. As a part of my career, I have expertise in project management, change management, supply chain, procurement, risk management. I have worked in all of those. Those are all things that are near and dear to my heart in terms of work. I am also someone who has done a lot of facilitation as a part of the work that I've done in my professional career, as well as leading teams, speaking engagements, and all of those things, right? So I did all that. And then in 2021, I also went full-time in my business. And so I've been honing this brand and building it out. The more women I talk to, the more of their needs that I see, the more I'm trying to build an all exclusive place or inclusive place that has all the things that you need to be successful in this one place. So that is really how I think about Confident Women Lead. It is for goal-oriented, driven women of color, Black women, brown women, etc. And so that you can have the confidence you need, not only just the confidence, but the skills. And a lot of times the skills that we need are not the hard skills. You are absolutely, and most times, technically sufficient. Matter of fact, not even sufficient. You are likely a technical expert. But where we don't have the information that we need in order to be successful, and when I say be successful, I mean successful where you're not working twice as hard to get the outcomes that you want. Like that's how I'm going about delivering upon the services of Confident Women Lead so that you don't have to do that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. I live here in the wonderful North Carolina with my husband and two kids, and some of my favorite things are reading. I love a good book, and I love my iPad mini, y'all. All right. The work that we do. So I talked a minute ago about some of the work that we do inside of Confident Woman Lead. We provide the skills, strategies, and community you need to grow your career and business. And one of the reasons, or the main reason that we want to do this is we want to provide an environment and community where you have all the expertise that you need as a woman to move from being empowered. I know we like the word empowered, it's a buzzword, but what does that really mean? Right? It means that you're getting ready to. I don't want you to be getting ready to. I don't want you to be stepping into the place. I want you to be at the place where you have not only just been empowered to do something, and not ask someone else their permission, but you are the person that holds the power. You have the power to make serious decisions, right? And as a woman, that's a big deal because a lot of times we are put in background positions if we are people of color, or we're put in administrative positions as women. And sometimes that means that we don't hold the power in those positions that we need to make the change, the impact, to reach our goals, etc. And so that's what I want to help you do. All right, so let's jump into day one. And what I'm going to share with you is important. I guarantee that if you stay with me, the things I'm going to tell you today, you have not heard before. Okay, so for today, day one, we are going to talk about how to accelerate your career growth by mastering the right mindset and being intentional. Intentional. I feel like intentional has become a buzzword too, but that's okay. I want you to be deliberate, intentional, on purpose about your career goals. And I'm going to tell you why it matters in a moment. So right now, when I say network, like, what's the number one reason you are not networking, right? And so up on my screen, I have a set of beliefs. These are the beliefs that I hear the most often amongst the women that I coach. And so belief number one, I just want to do my job, like, over here in the background. Okay, but is that really a belief that you hold? Or is that a belief that you hold because you're afraid of being denied, of rejection, right? Is it the truth of what you want? Do you really want to be in the background? And I'm asking this because I can remember saying this to someone and them being like, and I'm going to tell you the same thing. One, my astrological sign is a Libra, and Libras like to be leaders, right? So therefore, me wanting to be in the background is not indicative of my design. But two, if you're going to school, if you have your master's, if you're working hard, you're putting in all this time, you're doing that so that you can stay in the background, sis? You're doing that because you don't want to be recognized? You just want to keep this job? You're here right now to learn about networking because you don't want the visibility, recognition that you believe you deserve, or the work product that you are producing, you deserve to be recognized. The people in the background dancers are not the centerpiece, whether we are watching a Beyonce in a concert or whomever, right? The background dancers, we see them, but we're not paying attention to them. You heard me? They are not there. They are not the person we're there to see. So if you have the thought, I just want to do my job, from the background, then what you have to reconcile is, do you really want to be a leader? Right? Because those two things are conflicting thoughts. The second belief is about confidence and not being confident enough in yourself. And what I'll tell you is confidence is something that you have to foster. Confidence doesn't just happen overnight. Confidence is a skill, and that skill takes practice. So belief number two, I'm not confident enough. Belief number three, it's one of my favorites. I'm an introvert. So we confuse being an introvert with not taking action, and they are not the same. I too am an introvert. I know I'm standing here, I'm smiling, all of those things. And even my members inside of CW will tell me that they don't believe that I'm an introvert. But the reality of it is that I am. When I stop today's broadcast, as I think about my week, I have to think about how I'm going to manage my week. Because if I don't think in advance about how I'm going to manage my week, therefore my energy, I'm not going to make it to the end of this challenge. It's as simple as that. And this holds true even when I was in a corporate environment. I remember having a conversation with my boss about working from home before. Working from home was a thing that we could do a lot. And I remember telling him one Thursday, like, listen, I need to work from home tomorrow because by the time I get, or on Fridays, because by the time I get to Thursdays, I can't do no more, y'all. Like, I have reached my capacity. And it's in everybody's best interest that I just work from home on Fridays. And so that was one of the things that I had to do, but I had to advocate for myself in order to be able to do that, even in a professional environment, because I am an introvert and my capacity for people is limited. My amount of energy that I have nonstop is limited. So I have to be thoughtful of that. If I wait for other people to do it, it's not going to happen. And then I'm just going to want to like curl up and hide like a turtle in its shell and not do the things that I need to do. Belief number 4, I don't like people. As a woman of color, it's not, for the most part, in our nature to not like people. We don't like people because of trauma. And so I'm going to encourage you to really think about when you say you don't like people, why is that? Where have you been disappointed before, whether it's at work or in your personal life, in your familial life growing up, where you've been disappointed by people? And so right now you have your guards up to say, I don't like people. And I'm just going to point out from a networking event perspective, from a relationship building perspective, you don't have to like the person to work with them, to have a conversation, to have a win-win scenario, an exchange of services, exchange of skill sets. We don't have to like those people in order to do that. That's a limiting thought that's causing you to self-isolate and feel lonely when you don't necessarily have to. And then I have belief number 3 again, because that's how life goes, but it's actually belief number 5. My work should speak for itself. And I'm going to tell you what I heard Carla Harris say. She said, but work doesn't talk. That piece of paper, all of those things that you're doing, your work product does not speak for itself. That's why you have to be the voice for your work product. So if you're waiting for people to just acknowledge what you're doing because you're working hard and you have a great work product and you can see it, that's not inherent to, one, how all cultures see work, and not all generations see work. So for those of us who are Gen X and we grew up in a baby boomer generation, and for a lot of us, baby boomers are still holding the reins in terms of leadership and and hiring and decision making. Your work is your work. They pay you to do your work. That's how they think about it. So if you want your work to be recognized, you've got to say something. Going back to, you can't hide in the background doing this work. Not only that, for Black women in particular, and for women, but the intersectionality of being a Black woman says that we should be seen and not heard. That thought is probably playing somewhere from our childhood, meaning stay in a child's place. Some of the thoughts that we have from childhood also impacts our ability to show up in the workplace, right? It impacts how we show up. So go to work and keep your head down, or some other, we'll add those to the honorable mention of beliefs we've been given that we don't think about how our grooming and our childhood also is the same thing that's playing out at work. Other things that we think about, or that I hear we say, I don't know what to say, I don't know who to talk to, and it's awkward. It can be okay for it to be awkward. The more you practice, the more confidence you will have, the more people you will know, the more people will know more about you. And it's not as I'm going to call it difficult as your mind is making it. Your mind wants to make it difficult because it wants to overthink. So it wants to say all of the things because you want to do something new. And anytime we want to do something new, our mind is going to give us 11 reasons why not to do it. So if you listen to your mind when I give you today's action, you're not going to do it. And I want you to come inside of the portal or the community, the pop-up community, and ask questions. Be willing to say, what's in the way of you doing it. That's the whole purpose of this week, is for you to take action. If it was just a matter of telling you what to do, you know what to do. You know that you need to network. I'm not the first person or the last person that's going to tell you to do it. What's standing in the way is the how and the support in terms of how you do that. How do you go from networking to building relationships that you can leverage? Having people in your corner, because networking is important for people who want to move ahead, but also just because you also want support, right? Networking, knowing people is what gets things done the most efficiently and effectively. When I call Tammy and I need her to do something so I can meet my project deadline, she is more likely to do it and drop her work if she knows me. If she doesn't know me and I call making demands of her, she's gonna ignore me. You probably have had that situation. Knowing people and having a level of a relationship, not a friendship, a relationship, is useful for all of us, no matter where we are in our career. It makes your life easier. Okay. So now I want to talk about how the system works. This is the most important thing I'm going to tell you today, because no one ever tells us why relationships matter and how it leads to promotions, wealth, salary increase. So if we think about at the bottom of this pyramid of life that we live in, and we're not talking about like hierarchy of needs, we're talking about how people move up. At the bottom, we all come from a family unit, regardless of race, etc. Right? We all started with a family unit. The thing is, people exit the family unit into the world two different ways. If you are elite and wealthy, so let's say your left hand or the left side of my screen, the path you're going to take, this is the path for rather those that are middle to upper class. This is the path for predominantly white people. And this is the path for those who understand how the system works. So in white families, middle class and upper class, you see it on TV, you see it in the world, you see the nepotism at work. I'm going to tell you today how that's playing out, why that's playing out, and how it is, in fact, a cheat code. And the reason why they are getting ahead faster than us, and why we are working twice as hard, even if we don't want to. Okay, so on the left side of my hand, I'm coming out of this family unit, and it's a roadmap. I'm taking this roadmap. My family has the playbook. They understand how the system works, so they're going to move me up a notch. It's like I'm going to skip a level because I understand how the business works, or the business not only at work, but the system of it. How does this world works? How does corporate works? How do people get jobs that are not even posted? How come Tom's best friend got the job even though they wasn't qualified? This is what's happening. And I encourage you, if you're watching this replay, especially if you're listening to it on a podcast, to watch a video version of the replay so that you can see the visual that I'm working from. Okay, so the rich folks, the white folks, the wealthy folks, they are coming out of their family unit up the path of least resistance. They understand how the system works. This is why you saw a couple of years ago the people who were charged with bribing to get their kids into good schools. It's because they understand how the system works. Their kids didn't do what they needed to qualify on their own, so they have the money to buy the relationships that they need to get their kids where they're going to go. Now, in your right hand or on the right side of the path, right, because we're leaving the family unit in two different ways. We have the path for minorities and the poor. And this path also is for those, regardless of race, who are less educated. This path, the path that we are on as minorities. Most of us are first generation college students. Most of us are first, generation of people to earn six figures, wealthy women, etc. Our path didn't tell us about the system. It told us about morals and values. It told us about religion. It told us to follow the rules. It never told us to build relationships. It never told us to talk about ourselves. It never told us to do the things that are necessary in order to navigate the system efficiently and effectively to get to your goal faster. But those are the things that the left hand, the wealthy side, those that understand how the system works are taught. So here we have two sets of people, elite and wealthy, minority and poor. So left side, elite and wealthy, and then on the right side, you have minorities and the poor. When we go into corporate, when we go into the workplace, the elite and wealthy are going into the workplace likely because they had an internship, one, which is a cheat code of the system because they now have experience. They understand two things. They have an objective for what they plan to accomplish in this workplace, and they are going about the business to find out who is needed to help them accomplish that objective. And I'll give you a scenario. In one of my last years as a leader, I had an intern work for me, and my intern got his internship, mind you, because he didn't do what he was supposed to, but his parents called in a last minute favor to our CEO. And thus he got an internship. Relationships. Two, when he got there, he worked hard. Do not get me wrong. He not only worked hard, but what was more important to him than working hard was building relationships. That kid spoke to 50 plus people in our organization in his 8-week internship. Now, some of those people didn't care for him, but others wrote me notes about how impressed they were with him and all of the things, right? So sometimes we do things and everybody's not going to be our people, and that is what it is. But he did get a job post-graduation because he was somebody's people. Somebody was impressed. But his willingness to meet with 50 people to ensure he had a job post-graduation and in the area that he wanted, he understood how the system worked. He knew that his objective was to have a job post-graduation, and he went about seeing or meeting people to find out who he needed to ensure that that happened. Now, meanwhile, back in the right-hand side with me and those minorities who are first generations, whose parents were likely not, we'll call it members of the system, but they were the working class of the system, right? And so when you're the working class of the system, that's where we get things like follow the rules, don't cause no trouble, all of those things, right? But we have to keep in mind that, and the reason for looking at the beliefs we were given as children is because it's just like the Constitution. It was written, or they were given at a time that was vastly different than today. Our parents most likely were not, even if your parents were like school teachers, right? They were still not in white collar environments. They were still not at the levels that we have reached, even if you're working in government and healthcare, et cetera. Right? They may have been, supportive from an administrative perspective, school teachers. If we think about it, there were very few people that looked like us who were doctors and lawyers for their generation. So that makes us trailblazers. And so as trailblazers, we didn't know this, but we do have the ability to either teach the next generation or write the course. If you are in your 40s, your life is not over. Your life is not over. We don't live in olden times where we die at 40. This just means that you are at the next chapter for the next chapter you want for your career. So this is for you too. That goes for in your 50s as well, because I know you guys are going to tell me, am I too old to start to network, to build the type of career that I truly desire? So now, what do we do as opposed to what do they do from those who understand the systems? As minorities, we go to work, and our leading principle is not understanding the system or how the system works. Our leading principle is culture. And so because our leading principle, and this goes not just for Black people, I have worked in several environments, and what you will find in my experience and in talking to other members is that most minority cultures will stay together. So we've seen that those people who come from India, they likely are all like in IT and they're on the third floor or whatever floor, they're all on the same floor rather, and they eat together. The Asians eat together. Now, we don't do such a good job of breaking bread together, but we still kind of lean or gravitate to the commonalities we have from a culture perspective and who we like, even among culture. The problem with that is that because we are all at the same place in how the system works, we are not the people that we need to be talking to only in order to get what we need. So if you're watching my screen, you see that in the middle, right, how the system comes together is in the middle. And in the middle of the system is relationships. And your ability to have the proper relationships will determine how many times you get promoted, how much wealth, how many salary increases, how equitable your salary is. Because see, people who have relationships with you are less likely to play with your money. Somebody along the way is going to tell you when you have relationships that you're not being paid fairly. Somebody along the way is not going to try to sell you on an opportunity that's not really an opportunity because you have coverage, because relationships equal coverage. So meanwhile, over here, we're like, I'm just going to hang out with people that look like me. I'm just going to talk to people. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is that we don't listen to each other. We don't value culturally each other's opinion in the workplace because we believe that the other side, the white side, has all the power. Even if the people we're talking to look like us, are in higher leadership positions than us. And because we're not willing to do that, the things that we need to be taught about the system, we're not being taught because we're not listening to each other. We're not listening to the people who have made it, the lessons learned, and things like that. Now, will there be those that look like us that are gatekeepers? There are gatekeepers no matter what. You have to use discernment to navigate around gatekeepers. It's as simple as that. Now, inside of Confident Women Lead, I have a much longer presentation or video on this because essentially what happens is this is circular. And if you have to watch the video, but this is circular. And once you get it, you can create generational wealth because your kids don't have to start from scratch. So this is where you see, I'm going to use Junior from Blackish. His dad Dre was in marketing, right? So Junior ended up with an internship because his dad was in marketing. He didn't have to go out and find it. He didn't have to waste time doing all that. He did decide to go back to school because the rules of the system said he needed a degree. But he also now has relationships. So because he has these relationships, now he has his degree and he has experience, it will make his ability and the level to which he starts in an organization higher than just having credentials or just having experience. You can see this in other wealthy families. So Paris Hilton's, any of the families. And this is also why you see families stay in the same industry. So if you watch the show Blue Bloods, you see they're all in like the law enforcement. Their dad was the chief. Their dad is the chief. Brothers the detective, sisters, the DA or assistant DA, right? Because it's a cheat code. And because they understand that the objective is to make money, we want to do something that we value and love, but a lot of times that comes from what we are taught in our family unit. And so the trouble that we're having is we're using blue collar principles in a place that blue collar principles do not apply. I'm going to say that again. We are trying to use the blue collar principles we were given in a place where blue collar principles don't apply if you want to be a leader. Now, if you just want to go to work and work your 8 to 5, your 9 to 5, and that's it, and keep your job, your blue collar principles will do that for you because your work ethic will keep you there. But if you want to be a leader, you need more than the blue collar principles that we were taught. Okay, so keeping with 30 minutes or less. How do you identify your networking goals? So what I want you to take from the previous slide was that you need an objective, you need a goal. You need to be clear about why you are there. And I'm going to use the word objective over goal, and I'm going to tell you why. An objective is a long-term dream, goal. So if your long-term dream is that you want to be CEO, then you're going to create goals to help you meet that long-term objective. One of the things that we were not taught that I'm telling you is that your career is a long-term game. It's a long-term game, which means it requires strategy. So I want you to identify what goals you need to take right now, and that you're going to use those when we talk tomorrow about who can help you meet those goals, right? So if I go back to what I just said and how the system works, you need an objective and you need to know who is needed to meet that objective, right? And so that's going to be kind of your takeaway for today, and it'll lead into tomorrow's exercise on what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So identify your networking goals. What, when, why, who, and how. 5 W's, even though there's an H, or 4 W's and an H. Define a clear objective. Set the goals before you start a networking activity. Have a specific goal to ensure your networking efforts are strategic and aligned with your career goals. Identify who can help you achieve these goals. And then I want you to reflect on your career goals, identifying areas of growth, and setting those objectives. For example, if you're looking to move into a leadership role, seek out leaders in your field and learn from their experiences, especially from people of color. We are each other's cheat codes. We are each other's cheat codes because culturally we speak the same language. I am of the belief that other cultures will tell you what to do, but they won't tell you how to do it. They don't know how to speak our language. And they may tell you how, but you're going to need to have mastered the skill of speaking or reading in between the lines. So if you can't read between the lines, then you need to get a mentor. You need to be inside of CWL so that we can translate that for you. So today's takeaway, today's homework, reflect on your current beliefs. Which of the beliefs I mentioned or which belief you came up with when I talked about this that's standing in the way of you showing up for your dreams and your goals. And then write down your networking goals using the what, when, how, and why that I mentioned a moment ago. Now, I encourage you to post your goals inside of the pop-up group because it will allow me to give you feedback. It is also an exercise in being confident in where you are and confident in talking about yourself, where you are with other people. And it's a safe environment. Anybody choosing not to be safe will be let go immediately. We are a sister's keeper. That is a non-negotiable for Confident Women Lead. Not only that, all questions, there's also worksheets, and the replay videos will all be inside of the pop-up video. So you can get everything you need, including your questions answered inside of that pop-up group. All right, that is all for today. I think I'm right at 30 minutes. I will see you all tomorrow. Again, questions, anything that you need, the link to the pop-up group is inside of the replay email, or if you're watching this or listening to this on the CWL podcast,